Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud Course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. Before starting, if you enjoyed this content, giving it a like and a subscribe, it's a free way to support the channel as I can create more content like this in the future. Now going into the track guide itself, turn 1 can be quite complicated. What I'm using as a reference for braking and as a reference to judge the corner, since you can't really properly see since it's a downhill corner and the track fades away from you, is this blue cone around here. I know that just before about passing the cone, like around now, see it's very close to the cone, I'm applying the brakes and I'm trying to go diagonally towards the right hand side. So I'm all the way to the left, and while braking, I want to go somewhere around this, diagonally. And that's exactly what's happening. And if you will brake a bit later, like very close to the blue cone, you will have a bit of oversteer going into this part. Notice that I'm steering to the left side, even though the car is going to the right. So keep that in mind. If you have a bit of rotation on entry, generally it's a good thing because you can go a bit quicker, but it's a bit more dangerous as well. Now going into the braking, what's important here is to not spike the brakes. Notice my brake shape. It goes and it bleeds very gradually. Everything happens slowly with the brakes. You don't want to just spike the brake and then quickly drop it. It won't work because of the elevation change. You have to keep the balance of the car as steady as you can, because anyways the car is gonna be quite unbalanced while going into this corner, so try to keep the platform stable. That's one of the objectives. In terms of vision and in terms of apex, we're looking at this curve on the right side. We want to be on throttle before hitting it, so ideally you will just go on throttle and go very slow so you can build up the throttle. But if you're just a bit more aggressive like I'm doing right now, I'm just giving it a blimp, then going quickly back, then going back again. But this is not the best way to learn it. This comes more with experience and feeling the car, having these odd inputs. So I would go for something more smooth, you going on the throttle a bit more controlled and slowly, and then build it up. But anyways, the point will be that whenever you're getting at this curve, you should be on throttle. That's gonna be your point in which you should be on gas. So again, we're gonna apex around the curve. We won't touch this red and white because then the car will get even more unbalanced, staying only on 2 tires, those right tires being a bit elevated. So apex around the white line, put the throttle down, and now you will have a good exit out of here. You can even touch a bit the dirt on the gravel trap on the left side. If you barely touch it, like you see in this in my previous lap, you can see that the tracks remains here. It still won't be an off track, so it won't scrub speed. So you can use a bit more than you think here. So don't be afraid to keep the throttle pinned, even though it looks like you can hit the sand, barely hit it. It's not gonna be an issue. Now for the next corner, the braking point will be past the 50. So past the 50, like right now, I'm applying the brakes. I want to go to first gear. So initially I'm braking in a straight line, like right now, whenever I'm hitting my peak pressure, notice that my steering wheel is pointing straight. That's because whenever you have a lot of brake pressure, you have a certain amount of grip available to your tires, and you want to use most of that grip to the braking itself, since you're gonna brake late. So keep the steering wheel straight, and then just whenever you start bleeding off the brakes, then you will start turning more and more. What I like to do is to delay a bit the downshift first gear. So now I'm in second, then first. So the rhythm is something like this. You don't want to go all the 3 downshifts or the 4 downshifts to happen very quickly, because otherwise I think you will just miss a bit of the speed on entry. You can carry a bit more by delaying a bit the downshift, And in terms of apex, you want to apex at this curb. You can even go on top of it, but don't go all the way on top of it. Like if you go all the way to the grass, again, you'll have your right tires elevated, the car will lean towards the left side, and you have to take a right-hander. See, it's not the best way to do it. So use the curb, but find a sweet spot. In terms of the exit, you can use all this part. This won't be an off track. There's a bit of texture, maybe in the quality of the video is not so obvious, but there's a bit of texture to this grass, and you can use this. And for this track, there are multiple places like this. So this is one of the places where you can use more than the curb that's limiting the track, and use it. You will gain time by using this part. Now repositioning to the right, avoid this kink in the white line on the left side. You will go around it for the next corner. Even though we're traveling a longer distance, going around the corner will have such a better run into the next corner, since our car will be already positioned perfectly. Otherwise, we won't use all the track if we try to shorten the distance, so keep it in mind. Now for this part here, again, notice this a bit of texture on the right side. You can open up the corner slightly, but even if you don't go all the way to the right side, it's still gonna be okay. There's not a lot of time to be gained here by using this part, mainly because you don't have enough time to properly position the car. So it's okay if you don't use it. Now in terms of braking here, in third gear, you will just brake a bit harder, and you're looking at this curb because you want to touch this curb like this. You see, there's a big difference if you go this close to the curb versus if you apex around the white line. It's gonna be 1/10.5 in terms of lap time. So in your mind, you will use as much as you can on the inside curb, and the moment that you're inside curb, smash the throttle. Notice this 0-100 very quickly. Now this is, again, you can use all of this without getting the off track. But on the exit, if you touch the grass around here on the exit, you will get a 1x, which is a bit stupid in my opinion, since you can use all the way here, but you can't use it on the exit. It's a bit of a weird thing with the track limits on this track. But if you know this, you have to just quickly bring the car to the left side so you won't hit the grass and it won't be an off track. It's simple. Now for the next corner, again, notice this texture on the grass. Use it to open up. In this case, it will make a difference. So stay around here and from this angle start to turn. I'm braking at the beginning of the curve, but I'm braking a bit too early in this attempt. Ideally, I would have want to brake around here. Whenever the pillar covers the beginning of the curve. So this should be like a bit of a better braking point, a bit more on the limit braking point. So if you're gonna brake at this point, I think you're gonna be fine. Again, I'm using the fixed setup with this, so there's nothing special around it. There's nothing special with the setup. Downshifting to second, and what I want to do is to stay very tight here. So very early on throttle, notice how early I'm back on power. At this point, I'm already back on power, I'm using 2%. So super early on throttle because we have a huge straight, and we're gonna apex, and we're gonna use all the track like this. If you're not putting your right tire all the way, almost touching the grass, then you're losing probably at least half a tenth, at least. Just because this is a huge straight, as you can see. Now, for the next corner, braking point is mostly done on feel, but you can also use the 50. So I'm braking after the 50, as you can see around here. And I'm looking at this curb on the inside. I want to stay very close to the curb and almost touch it while apexing. I think if you touch it, it's actually gonna be good. So trailing, notice long on the brake, still braking. And now before touching the curb, I'm putting the throttle 0-100, touching it like this, and now going back. So you can get away with a soft brake into this corner. You don't have to brake very hard. This is a high-speed corner. We need to keep the minimum speed up. You need to go early on throttle, and you need to use this part on the exit. Now for the next corner, again, braking point is gonna be correlated with the 50. Past the 50 or at the 50, you're gonna apply the brakes, and you're gonna downshift while braking in third gear. You want to cut this even more than what I did. You can go just slightly bit more. the difference is small, but I think there's a bit of lap time if you cut just a bit more aggressively. And the moment that you hit this apex, then you're gonna smash the throttle, you put the throttle down, because you can use all this track without getting an off track all the way to the gravel trap. So use this line, this is gonna be perfect. Now for this corner there are two approaches. You can either take it in fourth or in third. I think fourth is a lot more consistent because you just have to brake. Like, the braking point is a bit difficult to find. I'm doing it mostly on feel, but if you want something, you can use the moment that you straighten up the car, like the moment that you arrive at the white line, like right now, you're gonna apply the brakes. And as I said, I'm just braking in fourth gear, trail braking through the apex, and now just slightly before the apex, I'm applying the throttle and I want to cut here as much as I can. Keeping the throttle pinned, you can even touch a bit here this grass and it won't be an off track. So I think you will carry a lot more speed. If you will go in third gear, what will happen is you will be a bit slower on the apex, but you will have a slightly better exit. But because this straight up until the next corner is so short, then I don't think being in third gear will make a difference. I don't think you will gain on the exit that much so that it will make up for the fact that you're losing in the mid corner part. I think at best they would be equal, but staying in fourth is a bit easier because you don't have to do the downshift, so you can properly focus on the trail braking. Now for this corner, again, the braking point will be a bit harder to find unless you use the 50. I'm actually not using the 50 while doing laps, so that's a bit crazy. I think probably looking back, in hindsight, I think 50 is a good reference because I'm braking slightly past the 50, but I'm looking more at the corners, to be honest with you. In a lot of these cases with the track guides, I'm looking more at the corners and less on the references. I think I formed this kind of driving in which I'm able to, just by looking and feeling from previous laps, to find where the grip limit is. But if you're at the beginning and if you're just starting out in racing or you're at an intermediate level, I think having proper visual references will help a lot more. So it's somewhere around the lines that you start with no references, then you go to a lot of references, and then as you get even better, you get again to a bit of a lower references, if that makes sense. So it's a journey. But definitely you can use the 50 around here. So braking after the 50, braking hard initially. You have to brake harder than you think. You will downshift to third, and you have to use a bit more than what I used here. So the particularity of this corner is that you can use this curb. If you notice, there's a bit of a compression and the track goes a bit downwards like this. And this curb doesn't have height to it. It's not like the surface is pointing again to the outside of the track. Everything sinks to the left side. So whenever that's the case, you can exploit more the track, you can exploit more this curve. Because I had a bit higher speed, because I carried a lot of speed from the previous corner and I didn't quite manage it perfectly. Notice that I'm not using everything right now. You can go a bit more towards the left, just a bit more, all the way to the grass almost, and then you'll be able to carry a bit more speed. So keep that in mind. You just want to look at this curb and position the car as much as you can to ride this curb. Obviously you're gonna go 0-100 very quickly here. Notice I wasn't able to properly do that because not using all the curb, but yeah. And using all this curb again, all the way to the grass. And now we're heading towards the last corner. This corner has a nice flow. Again, it's quite similar with turn 1 in terms that you don't really see it. So right now you just see this curve, but this corner is a lot longer. What I'm doing is here, whenever this grass is almost over, I'm applying the brakes. I'm downshifting quickly to third, and I'm trail braking as late as I can whenever this curve starts to be smaller. You see, in the beginning it was a bit larger, but as the track unfolds, it gets smaller. So here it's larger, here it's smaller. I'm apexing where it's smaller, putting the throttle back, and I aim to push the car all the way to the left side and now bringing all the way to the right side to cover the least distance, especially for a qualifying lap, let's say, because now you will just keep it straight for the next lap. But in short, that's a track guide around brands. I hope you have a great week, and I hope the racing here is gonna be nice. If you want to improve even more, and if you like my style, you can check out the sim racing course, the GitGud racing course in the video description, and I think it has a lot of value. I think anyone will improve with at least 1 second by going through the course. And thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around, looking forward to see you in the next video. Bye bye!